We now want to shine a light on the youngest victims among us.
Over 30 million kids under 13 log on to Roblox every day.
Local mom is warning other parents, monitor your kids'
Wherever kids are, predators will be.
year-old daughter's phone from a child predator.
Roblox allows anyone of any age to sign in.
That a 13-year-old girl on Roblox then drove to Topeka, Kansas, and picked her up in the middle of the night.
Playing against people that they don't know.
I genuinely thought only children went on there. I was very naive.
Hello everyone, welcome to my second channel. This is a crazy start to my first new video on this YouTube channel, War Clips Plus. This channel obviously will focus more on heavy and more graphic content, which can, obviously, well, my main channel at risk, though. Obviously, we're moving this to a second channel, but I just want to announce thank you all for the support. We're almost at 100 subs, and honestly, let's talk about this. Now, over a third of 100 million kids out there in the world right now play Roblox. The popular gaming platform claims that its system is safe and is making its best attempts to prevent fatal encounters between adults and minors. Despite this, there are always individuals who go under the radar and make their moves. Some swift with a lack of trace and others straight up blatant. Here's 17-year-old Ian, which is a code name granted to him to lower down the likelihood of him being harassed later and for a better chance of securing his privacy. Ian loves playing Roblox and loves to hang out with his friends and feels very much like that of a younger adult in society. However, he'll have encounters with individuals of his age and some slightly older. One day, that'll all change. In today's video, we'll be going over the infamous and undetected predator that almost got away with it all: bats. Although on the outside, Bats, or should I say Janae, seems to be very nice and a loving character to most, there were many who would consider her a close friend, despite her weird obsessions for mainly hanging out around guys. But then again, who am I to judge if someone wishes to hang out with other people? Or so I thought. You see here, there was an odd pattern with her friend group, which at first didn't seem like all too much, granted the circumstances placed upon everyone, myself included. But as time went on, there was a number in regards to the ages of some of these users that were deemed as friends with Bats. 17. Of course, and unfortunately so, there were some younger friends around the ages to as low as 13, which is just disturbing, to ages as high as barely pushing 21. It would be one thing if her friend group was mainly over the ages of 18 or 21, since obviously she's pushing 30, so an age group within a similar range would and could work. But granted the circumstances and the several opportunities to indulge in games that host communities with members well over 18, Bats refused to do so despite her many claims. As someone who will take the blame for not speaking up on anything, I also blame this on my blatant blindness to the matter, as I hadn't had the possible thought that she could have been doing anything way beyond the boundary. It only ever popped into my mind a few times, which were blown off by the hope that it wasn't what I thought it was, with incidents from as early as trying to get friendly with said 13-year-old to get blimps and potential nukes in Please Donate, which are 10,000 Robux and 100,000 Robux, so within that range, to ultimately using her situationship gone wrong to make an extra few bucks. It was because of these situations which granted a better view at what was really going on, as I initially snapped at her once in February, which finally led me to feeling this guilt, as I still didn't want to believe that what she was doing was out of terrible desire. This, and ultimately playing the game for an average of 17 hours, mind you, she was and is still financially struggling. So it begs the question, what fascinated her so much? On the internet, there are loads of individuals seeking entertainment, most often through content such as video games or streams, or others, well, you know. And in this case, Bats was no different, just at an older age than most other players would be playing games at. With her fixation on receiving attention from all sorts of players, her popularity and desire to have more rows, and with that, her desire to build upon more friends than foes began. Remember the situation I had mentioned prior? Let's call him Merle. Now, Merle here was no butterfly and sunshine himself either. He had his ups and downs, but it still doesn't mean I enjoy them as a person either. Not because of the whole situation, but simply because of his character. But that doesn't mean I'm here to bash Merle. No, in fact, I went as far as to reach out to Merle in question regarding the same day that Bats had tried to reach out with me, with her sob story and flirting. To no one's surprise, in the Please Donate community, Bats love their treasures in terms of gaining Robux. Who wouldn't love getting free Robux? But what if it got to the point where it was more about the profit, more so than even caring about the consequences, until they were too late? While Bats was talking with Merle and trying to talk to me, something fell off, especially as she had constantly been making Robux left and right, and had a common trend which was being shown each time. Each of them were coming from Merle, and it wasn't just Robux. Yes, Merle was a down bad individual, there is no denying it, and there's no denying that anyone could have been in his shoes granted the circumstance in that very moment. But Merle had given his credit card info to Bats, which was one of the worst things he could have done. By doing so, he had given her every bit of reassurance to keep staying in contact with him, despite not liking him while claiming she did, making fun of him behind his back just to say she cared, and going in circles about it. Bats couldn't care less despite claiming she did, especially when it became evident when, at one point, even I, unfortunately so, decided it was a good idea to just get Robux from him and call it a day after their fallout, which had annoyed everyone. I and the other friends who were aware of the situation had been so fed up about it to where we just wanted it to end. I didn't care about the outcome and gave a quick solution which favored her side. And unironically enough, the friends at the time who supported her even called her out that using him was wrong. Fortunately, one of those friends who were close to me at the time came back to the realization of what Janae had done and apologized, describing what happened on her part. It wasn't just men though that she manipulated. Anybody with a form of conscience was a target for her. So as long as it meant that she can get what she wanted, whether that was validation or financial profit, she would aim for it. Now, let me call this friend Amy. Amy herself had said that what she was doing was terrible and that Janae shouldn't stoop as low as to Merle, but she responded with such feedback that indicated her intention to stop, quote unquote, just to only go forward with it and play victim even further, claiming Merle as one of her friends until we all finally had enough and had her 2 cents with him mid-game. But you'd think that'd be enough though, right? Sadly not. As prior to and after Merle, she had been seeking for more Robux, and randomly, one morning, Bats is looking for a friend named Art, who I didn't even catch word of since then. Now, mainly because Art isn't really active on Roblox. It's not like anyone knows him. I'm not saying his actual username. So Art, you know who you are. I'd assume you would. But Art offered to nuke her, which, if you didn't know, is 100,000 Robux. And obviously that rang some major bells in her ears, so much so to where she had been practically begging me to ask him to nuke her. But guess what? She didn't want it to be known from her, which is a common tactic of hers in these scandals. And not just with Robux or money either, as we'll discuss later. Even after the Merle situation, Bats would be found trying to scam and catfish an individual who in his own respect was down bad and weird. But that doesn't excuse the fact that she went as low as trying to scam another guy to make $150 off of dollhouse roleplay on Roblox. Supposedly, according to her, she had met a guy who was interested in her, and it escalated so much so to where she used a photo of another girl to try and gain money off of another guy online through a mirror pic. However, things wouldn't go her way, as not only would she be sent a pic, which ultimately caused her to fail to receive the money, as one of her friends would call out to how tiny it was in the VC, and crazy enough, the same person who witnessed it saw the pic, and it was no other than a 17-year-old who was one of my friends who I know as well, whom we'll call Carl. So it was honestly just a wow factor to me, especially now when looking at it. There was a lack of guilt of her showing that to him, and rather there was just the whole sensation of her being ticked off completely that she instead didn't make the $150 off of the guy, clearly indicating a motive without care for consequence. Even when I did confront her, I found it irritatingly confusing as to why she made it all about picture yourself in my shoes. Keep in mind, at the time I hadn't even registered the fact that Carl was a minor in this moment, as it went over my head right then and there. It's honestly just one thing when you're dealing with these things and you're trying to make the most out of your life despite financial hardships, and I get that, truly. But it's another when you take it to the next level to where caring about the safety and overall exposure to minors is a lack of concern, especially when dealing with being sent, pics and screen sharing as well. Now, normally, I wouldn't care as to whom an individual is friends with. However, in these situations, I tend to just give the word, spread it, and call it a day. But something stood out to me, which I never dealt with in the past year of doing these. That being the friends she made. As mentioned before, Janae is 29 years old as of the date of the video being brought up, which should be the center of attention, as seen with her friends' age range. Among these individuals were, of course, younger folks. Now, unlike our previous people stated, I won't be censoring these names. But for the sake of YouTube's policies, do not reach out and or harass any of these individuals, including Janae herself. Any of those will be out of my hands, and simply any consequences will be mentioned later. Let's first start off with Amy's ex-boyfriend, Wish, also known as, on Roblox, Make-A-Wish, who has been a concerning person to say the least. As during the whole Bats call out initially, I made it very clear to everyone about Bats' intentions, showing both screenshot and video proof on screen share of the incident, to which Wish, very maturely enough, would go on a ranting spree about how immature we were and would completely ignore our claims and defended his friend. But with this in mind, it can be stated that this is a very eyebrow-raising fact, as a common tactic of dangerous people such as these includes changing your name and identity. Which, can you take a guess as to who was a master of this? If you said Bats or Janae, well, you'd be right. You see here, despite being 29 years old, Janae supposedly felt uncomfy or uncomfortable with her age, oftentimes seen getting jealous with others and trying to get extra friendly with others who were literally 2 times younger than her, especially for making money. Initially, when a friend and I had met Bats for the first time, she had told us that she was in her 20s, more specifically 20 plus. However, after pushing the question further, she revealed to us that she was what would be her most preferred age of 26. Although claiming 26, Bats, to the exact same friend who was there with me when she had told us how old she was, claimed that she never said she was 26 and was in fact 28 at the time. However, when looking at the other conversations that she's had with other people, including Ian, several different ages were chosen in her arsenal, all tactics which are commonly used by predators to further enhance online relationships with minors and younger individuals for some sort of one-sided benefit. Now, you would think that all of her friends would, give in to the fact that, oh, hey, your friend is a pedophile. No. Unfortunately, Mr. Make-A-Wish over here recently reached out to me at the time of making this video and requested to have his name taken out. However, Wish, I would like to formally apologize for the fact that I will not be doing such things, because in our call, unfortunately, I did not, when I recorded this, record my actual mic because I was recording background footage. So I only had the background audio playing. But in the video, I had confronted him, and his first thing when I asked him to type in NAI was a conversation recently with Bats on a new account, which was made on the same day I had called her out. On 11/18/2024, Janae had made a new Discord account going by .NXI. And after trying to add her on her main account, which is supposedly this new account, something went wrong. So I switched over the dots at the end, and suddenly that person was only accepting friend requests that they would send themselves. Obviously they would send the friend request. It made me confused as to whether or not he told her, because the funny part is, remember Amy had actually gone into a call with him recently to, settle things and whatnot. But the only weird thing is that when Amy had looked at his screen share, there was supposedly a group chat with who, Wish, and Nye. And the other thing is, when he did share his screen, there were group chats. However, he tried making it very clear at the start when I asked, do you have a group chat with her, that if I press the X, it'll automatically leave from the group chat, as though I didn't know that already. I mean, it's sad to say that I have almost 8 years worth of experience on Discord, but at least I knew what he was up to. He was trying to avoid the question 100% and was just giving more or less a basic reassurance question, which is something pretty much everyone would do if they're lying. You can also see this in, crazy example, Among Us, right? You would obviously give a basic answer that satisfies a viewer, but obviously this didn't satisfy at all. Now, when Wish was screen sharing, he had scrolled up in his conversation, but I realized he scrolled up a little too fast, and it didn't catch my eye only until a little after, when he had scrolled down again, and I didn't really notice it until I watched back into my replay of the video, where he had a 6-hour call with Bats, and his quote-unquote defense was he was just talking about things with her regarding Gabs and all his other relationships, which I find to be bullshit. All right, there's no way you have a 6-hour conversation and claim that you have no affiliation, nor let it become a part of your business to hang out with her for the past week or so recently. And in all the screenshots I had asked him, because I had sent the following message, which you'll see on the screen, that if he can provide sufficient evidence, otherwise, if not, then I won't revoke his name, right? And he sent all the evidence regarding him, removing Bats, which I was like, okay, seems promising so far. But the issue is, why didn't he tell me that she made a new account and he also removed it there? Unless he was still talking with her. It just really begs the question where the friendship lies, because I don't want to spread rumors, but obviously it's really looking really bad for you, Wish. All right, I don't want to be that one guy, but it's obviously been made evident that you still talk with Janae despite knowing what went down. And you even said it yourself that it looks bad on you. So you more or less just cared about what was more or less your public appearance than was really the morale. You tried initially making it, all about, oh, the minors, oh, this. But when you go down into your conversations, it doesn't really look like that. It becomes more about, hey, let's do this. Is this your friend? Is this that? Like, it becomes more focused on you having a friendship still ongoing with her, despite claiming you didn't, which I find odd. Especially when I called him. This was 12/18/2024. The last time he had texted was 2 days prior to this, and the last time he had a call was 2 days prior to that, to the 6 hour. But of course, I don't want to fixate this whole video on him, because I gave him his 5 minutes of sunshine. Let's focus now on Gabs. As mentioned earlier before, Gabs or Blubs was another friend of Wish who, they had a little frisky moment, but, I won't get into that, right? I don't really care what people do on the internet if it doesn't involve, the endangerment of children, for instance. But Gabs obviously did do that, which is ironic because she's very close friends with Bats and Wish. So I think you see where this is going. In her Discord server, for over 4 months straight, she had the access to NSFW for all minors to view. Now, you may be wondering, what the fuck am I listening to? Precisely, that is exactly what is going on. I even went as far as to go on one of my friends' account to see through his lens what a minor could view in the server. And guess what? To no shock at all, I was able to view all the channels, including the NSFW channel. And guess who was still conversing in there? If you said Gabs, you would be correct, because to absolutely no one's surprise, she's over there conversing. And if you scroll up even further, you can also view all the content, which I wouldn't recommend. As of now, it's been deleted, but at the time in which we had seen it, there were literal images of the Sun and Moon Pokemon protagonist, who, mind you, is at least 11 years old to pushing barely 14, indicating there they're a minor, literally barely a teen, all right? And it's just disgusting. And that, as well as Himiko Toga, right? She's a 17-year-old girl from My Hero Academia, right? Now, I'm not into all that My Hero stuff, but that's a minor, all right? At the end of the day, those are two minors being posted into the actual channel, right? And it's just straight up in front of your face. And minors can view this, and minors have actually conversed in here. When my friend had joined initially on his own, he had conversed with her asking, why can I see this? To which she said the following on the screen regarding that they are real minors and that they're not the fake ones. So obviously it wouldn't really matter. But that's just disgusting, because tell me why, out of all the 4 months that went by, not only once did it never come to her mind that it was illegal, but it didn't also come across to her mind that what she was doing was absolutely fucked up. As well as those who were minors that had access to this, one of the members who was, I believe, 14, 13, I can correct myself on the screen, was actually able to converse and view all the images. And a lot of people who I knew were weird, like, you obviously know who you are. I'll censor some names, some I won't for obvious reasons, because you're a weirdo, so it should be very well known to the community what you're really like. And after all of this, eventually, we did join her server and, we did our little thing, to which Gabs would ban all of us, claiming she didn't really want to do that because she didn't know how to kick or, obviously remove someone. That's bullshit. So we start talking in DMs, and she wants to call because she doesn't know what to do. And this is by Thanksgiving time, so she's freaking out. So she calls me and we have our whole conversation. She goes to her DMs and talks about how she didn't really know how, to word about it. And then half of the conversation starts turning out to be with Amy's whole ex situation. So I don't want to focus on that because that part is irrelevant. But the main part that is relevant is her quote-unquote lack of knowledge and lack of IQ to really understand how to work a Discord server. She added the NSFW content to the public's demand, right? Knowing fully well that later on she would invite minors and she would claim that, oh, they can see a little button, they can click no, and then all is done. No, obviously if a minor was interested, they can click yes and view the actual content. But the realist question is, why even have that in the first place? I understand if one thing, the server is 18 plus, right? You can do your own thing if it's an 18 plus server. You can get freaky, you can do whatever you want. But once you add a minor into that server, unless you add the minor temporarily into the server with like that one guest feature that enables them to only like talk in the VC, right? Like let's say like sometimes I have my friend, right, who obviously was the same person involved who was in the server. We invited him once for like Minecraft, I think, and we just played games, right? That was literally it. Once he disconnected from the VC, he was completely kicked out the server. He couldn't view anything else. If she had done something like that, okay, but even then, with the NSW involved in the server, that is disgusting. So unfortunately, to you three, there is nothing I can do really about it. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Bats' other friend, Simple, and who I had, confronted Simple saying, oh, is this really what you want to do? Like, is this the person you want to support? And, he was raising an eyebrow. He's like, were you the minor? Because I know you're not 17. He questioned me my age, and I was like, oh, I'm 19, but it wasn't me. He's like, oh, that's a little bit more concerning. And a little bit. And ever since then, he has not responded to me. And when I had tried reaching out to her other friend, who, the same person who was involved in that quote-unquote group chat that Amy had witnessed, I got blocked off the rip. I didn't even get a response. So it's very nice to see the support that, they're giving to her. Props to her. She's got her little fans. But out of all the cases I have dealt with, never have I once dealt with a friend group this toxic and this diversely terrible to the point where it's just disgusting to actually talk about. Now, as we enter chapter 3, things get a little bit more different because I'm going to center around this being on my POV and my experience with her. Now, for those who don't know, obviously I already gave the whole rundown about what the context to us was. Bats or Janae was obviously fixated and especially was crazy over me. I could not even hang out with any friends to the point where she would just spam call me, want me to get her attention. And when I try to reach out as a friend, obviously I would get ghosted for almost a day or so, right? I find it odd how the one time I want to take space, I go, hang out in my cup, right? And I meet some friends to this day I'm still hanging out with Wozgers, Red, all you guys. I've been hanging out with you guys since forever now. And the weird part is, no matter where I've gone, I've always been stalked by her. She herself even stated that she was literally stalking one of our friends, Wozgers or Jasmine, to the point where it became uncomfortable, stalking all her socials, all her platforms, where I was, what I was doing. It's really concerning and really disturbing how these people can go about their day thinking that this stuff is just normal. And obviously we're all 18 plus, but this part is specifically in regards to her stalking issues. And this isn't the only time either. Some of my other friends who I'll obviously censor, I'll call this one friend Michonne. Now, Michonne was a mod or a mod to be in this one server. And the issue is Michonne and I are really good friends. She's one of my best friends, and obviously I enjoy hanging out with her and tend to spend a lot of time with her. But when it became obvious that, Michonne wanted to hang out a little bit more, right? Because we don't really talk as friends as much, it became a concern to Bats as to why suddenly she wanted to hang out, which ultimately led her to join her games more often and and text me about, oh, Michonne is doing this, Michonne is doing that. Oh, did you know Michonne is up to this? And it even went to the point where she was stalking her at 3 in the morning nearly regarding her roles, where she was granted mod in the server, right? Now, I don't normally care about that, but that stuff does lead into it later on, because you would think that someone who stalks people would at least keep a mind record, because she did that with me, right? She kept a record of what I was doing, where I was, and all that. So why is it that when I had told her regarding the age about the actual minor in question, Ian, suddenly she's clueless? The main part was that when it came down to Ian, when I had told her his age, she completely left it under the radar, and literally 30 plus minutes later would go on to confront him. Finally, I want to go over the conclusion of all this with the actual in-depth summary of what's going on. As of now, I've already reached out to all her workplaces, which, is wild, but obviously someone's got to remind everyone, or at least inform people of what's actually really going on. And unfortunately, so Janae, it seems like you don't have a job still. Despite claiming you worked at a Burlington, obviously none of the Burlingtons that I called, and I have it all recorded, none of them actually told me that they had someone there. I was only thrown once by all of them, and I just find it actually really funny how the same person claiming she had 2 jobs when I initially called her out actually lied about having a job in the first place. But I did confront her during the second call out, and she actually went to my Snap DMs requesting that all of it would be extremely private, and here's what went down. Obviously, I'll link all of this stuff into like a document or something by the time you see this video, so check the description for that, or the comments, wherever I put it. But in a nutshell, she practically pleads that I don't put this down. She's like, oh, you'd be willing to go this far for me? And yes, I would, because obviously you're a child predator, and that involves child endangerment. I will be forwarding all this information once we organize this into a proper and official document that can be forwarded to her state county police department, which they'll handle it according to what they see best fit. But I would like to mention some things as well regarding her socials. Obviously, by this point, she's blocked me on Snapchat. She's deleted her main Discord account, which I still have access to, by the way. I don't have the actual account, but I have the actual DMs open. So all of that stuff is still there, and she physically can't go back in there because the account is deleted. So I have access to that. And Janae, whatever account you're using on Discord right now, I'll just let you know right now. Eventually, someone's going to find it. So I best recommend you uninstall all that and actually seek help. You've also changed your Instagram in hopes of praying that people won't find you. Unfortunately, we found that, and we still have your TikTok. So all that information will be also forwarded on those platforms, and hopefully we as a community can remove bats from the actual picture and further enhance the protection of the children in our community. And I would also like to thank everyone that supported me up to this point, that's also provided me all the information and also helped me into looking further into the situation. You know who you are, and I appreciate you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I will be doing more of this content eventually onto this channel once I primarily focus more on my main channel to get some consistency out. But I do appreciate everyone for staying here up to this point. I know the video is pretty long, and if I did miss any points, I'll obviously comment that down and pin it, right? Because I know I tend to be a little bit forgetful when I go off of a video recording. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Predator.